Begin today the Gemara on Daf Kufay Yamid Beis, about 12 or 13 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud, where it says Amar Rav Sheshis. Amar Rav Sheshis HaKofer B'Pekadin. A person that denies that he has a Pekadin, a deposit that someone gave him, he says, I don't have it. And then later on, he comes and he swears falsely about this. But over here, the Gemara is talking about even actually before he swears falsely about this. He's just Kofer that he has it. And then Eidim come along and say, we know that you have this Pekadin in your possession. Nase Olav Gazlan, or in Daf Kufay Yamid Beis. Kufay Yamid Beis, yeah. Nase Olav Gazlan, just by the fact that the person denied this, so he has the same halacha as a Gazlan. Even though he didn't swear falsely, but right away he has the halacha of a Gazlan, and therefore v'chayiv b'insin. He's chayiv right away in any einus that happens to this. Even if he was a shomer chinam up until this point, and a shomer chinam is only chayiv in pshia if he was negligent. But the moment he denied that he has it, now he becomes a gazlan by denying it, and therefore his obligation or his responsibility is like a gazlan, which is chayiv in einsin. The Tana of the following Braise is a raya to what Rav Shesha said. Because the Braise says, V'kichesh ba. The Pasuk says, and he denied this pekadin that he has. Lomadnu einish, says the Braise, from here we learn a punishment, that he's now going to be liable because he denied it. Then the Braise goes on to say, Azhara minayin. The pasuk there, when it says V'kicheshba, goes on to say what he's responsible for, that he has to pay kefil and so on. But then the Braise says, where do I see the warning for this? Whenever the Torah gives a punishment, it also says a warning for this. Talmud Loima, the pasuk there says, Lo yisekachashu. You should not deny something that you have from your friend in your possession. So that's the lashon of the Braise. Says the Gemara, my love, don't you think it's saying what Rav Shesha said? Lo einish mami. When it says einish, a punishment that you're liable, what are you liable for? You're liable now, you're responsible for this money, even for an einis, like a gazlan, as soon as you denied it. Says the Gemara, not necessarily is this a raya to what Rav Shesha said, lo einish shvuah. Maybe this Braise means to say, not only the person denied it, but he also swore falsely about it, then he's going to have an einish, then he's going to be responsible. But just denying it itself, maybe then he does not become a gazlan. Says the Gemara, but let's see what it says in the end of this Braise. What does it say in the end of this Braise? The Bachya says, the Ishtaba. There, the Seif of the Braise is talking about where he denied it and he swore falsely about it. From this I understand that in the Reisha of the Braise here, when it talks about this person that's denying this, he did not swear falsely. What does it say in the Seif? The Diktani Seif, in the Seif it says, V'nish bal sheker, he swore falsely about this, Lamadnu einish, and on that the Braise also says, I know the Pasuk here says the einish of a person that swears falsely about something he has in his possession. Then, Azhara minayin, from where do I know? Where does the Torah warn that he shouldn't do this? Talmud Loima loisa shakru. Loisa shakru is referring to a person that's swearing falsely. Says the Gemara, umid the Seife, the Ishtaba. The Seife of that Braise speaks about a person that swore falsely. Reisha de lo Ishtaba. It must be that the Reisha of this Braise is a person that did not swear falsely. Because if yes, it's the same thing. What's the difference between the Reisha and the Seife? Amri, so the Gemara answers, no, it's still not necessarily a raya to Rav Sheshes. Idividi de Ishtaba. Both the Reisha and the Seifa of the Braise is where the person denied and swore falsely about this pekadin that's in his possession. The difference though is Kan Shahida. And the Seifa of the Braise, after he swore falsely, he came back and admitted this himself. And there, once you admit it yourself, then you have to pay the keren and a chaimish and a karmasham. Kan Shabo Eidim. Over here, Eidim came and said that he lied, he swore falsely. The Gemara explains, also Eidim, if only Eidim came, he did not admit it himself, then chayiv b'insin. He's going to be chayiv as a gazlan in any einis that happens to this. But no chaimish and no asham. If after he swore falsely, he himself admits to this, then chayiv b'keren v'chaimish v'asham. That's what the Torah says, v'hisvada. If he admits to it, then you pay the keren chaimish and asham. But the point is, you still don't have any source from this Braise to what Rav Shesha said, that if you had a pekadin of someone in your possession, as soon as you're kaifer, you become a gazlan. That halacha you don't see in this Braise. The Gemara now has a question on what Rav Shesha said from another, I think this is a Mishnah. Huh?
You need a pasuk for that or something?
That what? He becomes a gazlan? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. He didn't do an action of mamish stealing it be a daim. He was just kaifer. Lavdafke, he gets the halacha like a gazlan. This is Rav Shesh's chiddush. The Gemara here is going to ask now from another Mishnah on this. Masav Rami Bachama asks from what it says in the Mishnah in Shvuas, V'shekenegdoi chashad ala shvuah. If the one that's fighting you So he suspected that he would swear falsely. So he can't swear. Which means like this. Usually when a person swears, who's the one, when you have it in Torah, a Tayin and a Nitan, who's the one that swears? The one that wants to pater himself. He's the one that makes a shvuah, let's say a Moed b'miktzas, or if there's an Eidecha, there's various cases in the Torah that you swear, the one that wants to pater himself, to be exempt, he's the one that swears, to keep his money. The other one that's trying to take out money from you, he can't swear and take out money with this. But Chachamim, though, instituted, what happens if this person that usually would have to swear can't? Because we know he's suspected of swearing falsely. Then Chachamim said, you will have the power and the right to swear and be mitzi and take out money from him. That's what's called kenegda chosher al shvuah, the one that's fighting you. He's suspected of saying a shvuas shav, shvuas shekes, and now you can swear and take out money. Now, what are the examples for this? Ketzad, who do we suspect of swearing falsely? Echad shvuas eidus, whether this person swore falsely regarding testimony that he knew. Vechad shvuas apekadon, or he swore falsely regarding a pekadon that he has in his possession. He says that he doesn't have it, and then he swears falsely about it. Or even any other shvuas shav where a person swears falsely just about anything. He swears stam about whatever it may be, a lie. These are all cases that we see now that this person is suspected to swear falsely. Says the Gemara Isa, if what Rav Sheshes said is true, that as soon as a person, a shemer, has a pekadon, denies it, he gets a status of a gazlin, if so, as soon as he gets a status of a gazlin, so then just by that itself he should be puzzled. A gazlan is possible for eidos. A gazlan should be possible to swear as well. Why does this Mishnah there say? When do we say that he's choshed, that he's suspected of saying a false shvuah if he denied a pekadon that he has in his possession? And the Mishnah there said he swore falsely about it. But why only if he swore falsely about it? Why not just the fact that he denied it? Right then, he's already has a status of a gazlan. Amri, so they said to answer this question of Sheshes. What is that Mishnah? What is this Mishnah talking about? The Koi Bagam, the thing that he swore falsely about, he doesn't have it mamish right now in his house, in his possession, in his courtyard. It's somewhere out further away in a field or in a swamp somewhere. The lav kfiruhu. We don't consider this to be a kfirah where he's mamish, a gazlan, where he's denying something that he has right here in his possession. And rather, the savar, the reason why he's denying it, I can say, is because he thinks to himself, let me just avoid paying this and giving it back right now, because I don't have it with me right now. Until I'll go and bring it. In such a case, where he doesn't mamish have it in his possession and he denies it, he's not called a gazlan. He's just trying to avoid paying it right now. But in a case where he does have it in his house, in his possession, and he still denies it, then just the denial itself he becomes pasul eidus, pasul for shvuah, and he's a gazlan right away. And the Gemara proves this distinction. Taida, I'll prove it to you. Again, it's I don't know. It's a good question. Okay, but he's b'payil. If he doesn't have it right now in his possession, so when he denies it, it's not the same thing. So Ravidi Baravin, you see from what he said, he made this distinction. He said, a person that denies a loan that he borrowed, kosher leidus. He's still kosher leidus. Why is that? Because what's a loan made for? A loan, you get the money to spend. So when he's denying it, it's because he doesn't have the money to pay back. So he's denying it because he wants to just delay paying it back. And when he's going to have his money available, he'll admit. But if you deny a pekadon that you have in your possession, you're guarding it, and you have it in your possession right now, and you're still denying it, pasul. For this, you are going to be pasul. So here you see this distinction between something that you're denying and you have in your possession or you don't. So by the pekadon, it's specifically talking about a pekadon that you have in your possession. You become right away pasul eidus, and then we could say what Avshesha said, that you become a gazlan right away. In fact, the Gemara, another question on what Avshesha said, v'ha'ama ilfa. Ilfa taught. Shvuah koine. When a person swears falsely, then he acquires this that he swore falsely about. What does this mean? The Gemara understands what this means is, if a person has a pekadon in his possession, and he denies it, and he swears falsely about the fact that he has it, then he acquires it. What does it mean that he acquires it? He acquires it to be chayiv in any einus, that now it's going to be his total responsibility no matter what happens to it. So the Gemara says, if that's what ilfa meant, so then what does this mean? Shvuah, he dekanya. If he swore falsely about it, he acquires it then as a gazlan to be responsible for an einus. Al kfira lekanya. Just by denying that he has it in his possession, he will not acquire it to be chayiv in an einus. So this is again contradicts what Rav Shesha said. So the Gemara answers for this as well. Same answer we said before. Hochanami de kaime bagam. Reason Ilfa said only if he swore falsely about it, then he's going to be responsible, is because he doesn't have it mamish in his possession. It's out in the swamp. When he just denied it, he was denying it because he figured, let me just delay paying, giving it back until I get it. So then I say only if he swears falsely. Person doesn't swear falsely, it's not because he wants to delay giving it back. Then when he swears falsely, then he's going to become responsible. Or the Gemara says a totally different shot. And what Ilfa meant to say when he said that the shvua is kaine, my shvua kaine, ked Rav Huna amarav. What Ilfa was really saying is what Rav Huna said in the name of Rav. The Rav Huna amarav. Ked Rav Huna that is. The Rav Huna amarav. Rav Huna said in the name of Rav. Mana li biyotcha. Person comes and says to his friend, you have a mana that you owe me. And this person responds, Ein lacha biyadi, no, I don't have it. And v'nishba. And he swears about this. He swears falsely about this mana, this pekod that he says you have in your hands. And then, v'achakach bo edim, and then witnesses come and prove that he lied, that he swore falsely. Potter. He's going to be potter to give this back after he swore about it. Shanema, because the pasuk says, v'lokach ba'olav v'loy yishalim, that if this person swears, the beginning of the pasuk there says, Shvus Hashem tib ben shneim. He swore about this. Once he swore about this to the owner, and the owner sort of took that shvuah, he accepted the fact that this person swore for him, then after that, even if it's found that he swore falsely, still, v'lo yishalim, he's not going to have to pay. As the Gemara says, kivin shekibla abaylim shvuah. Once the owner received this shvuah from this person, shuvei mishalim mami. He doesn't have to pay the money anymore. This is a very, very big chiddush here, right? Once you swear, you don't have to pay. The Gemara is going to discuss it now by Arichis, and it's going to qualify exactly in what case this applies. It doesn't always apply, but for right now, when you see what it says here, it's simply saying when a person swears falsely about a pekadon that he had in his possession, once the owner accepted this shvuah, even if later it turns out that it was a lie, you don't have to pay. And that's what Ilfa meant to say. Shvuah kaine, once you swore falsely, then you acquire it, you can keep it, even if it turns out that you have it. And you lied about this, you can keep it. That's what Ilfa was talking about, but it's not related to what Rav Shesha said. It's talking about a pekadon. Talking here about a pekadon, where that's what the pasuk is talking. The Gemara actually is going to discuss that itself as well, whether we're talking here about a halva or about a pekadon. We'll see. Here the Gemara now will discuss this halacha itself, all the details of it. The Gemara is going to ask many different questions on this. Let's see this halacha itself here that Rav Huna said. Amar Rav Huna amar Rav, mana li biyotcha. Person tells his friend, you owe me a mana. And this person responds, you don't have anything in my possession. V'nishba. And he swears falsely about this. And then Ubo Edim come along and say he does. Potter, he still doesn't have to pay it. Shanema v'lokach bala v'lo yishalim, kivin shekiblu bailam shvuah. Soon as the bailam accepted the shvuah, shuvei mishal mamin. Even if Edim came later, he still doesn't have to pay the money. So now the Gemara says, Amar Rava, when did he say this? Like you just asked before, halva or pekadon? So Rava says, Mistavre milse de Rav, it would be logical to accept what Rav said, bimilve, by a loan. The lohitzah nitna, because since a loan is something that's made to spend, you borrow money to use it, to spend it, you don't have the money in your possession. So over there, in that case, you could say that v'lo yishalim, after he denied it and he swore falsely about it, so he doesn't have to pay it up. Now the money is yours. Aval pikadin, but it should say the marekai. But what's a pikadin? A pikadin is that it's a deposit that you're keeping it in a safe place for the owner. Wherever it is, it's always in the owner's possession. It belongs to him. It's not your item. It's not money that you got that was already spent, and now you just owe him. You have to pay him back money. It's the actual pikadin itself that belongs to the owner. And therefore, even after you deny it, and l'chayre, the pasuk says that the owner already accepted a shvuah, doesn't matter. If it's found that you have it, you have to give that back. It belongs to the owner. That's what Rava said. This would be logical to make this distinction. But he said, v'ho'el lekim. This is a lashon of a shvuah, that he's saying, I know for a fact, I can swear, he says, that when Rav said this halacha, Amar Rav afilu b'pekadon. Rav said his halacha even regarding a pekadon. Why? Because the chiksiv kra, the pasuk that he's quoting as a source for his halacha, the pasuk of v'lokach ba'ila v'lo yishalim, what is that pasuk talking about? The pekadon ksiv. That pasuk is talking about a pekadon. Even though you have someone else's pekadon in your possession, once the owner accepted a shvuah from you, now you're not going to have to pay it back to him even after you bring zaydim that you have it. Okay, so the Gemara now here brings questions on this. Yosef Rav Nachman v'kam, Rav Nachman was sitting and he was saying, Lahoshmaite, this halacha, and Eisver Rav Acha bar Minyomi Rav Nachman. So Rav Acha bar Minyomi asked him, it says, Nabraisa, hey cham pekdaini. This is actually here later in the Pedic here. So a person says to his friend, hey cham pekdaini, where is my pekadon? Amalei, and he answers him, Ovad. It got lost. So he says, Mashbiani ani. Mashbiyachani, that is, swear to me that you don't have it, and it got lost. V'omar amen. And he responded to this that he said, you should swear for me. He says, amen, yes. So the lashon of amin in itself means that he just accepted the shvur and he swore for this. And then Edom come along and say shachloi that he has it. He has this bekat and he ate it up himself. Mishalem misakeren. He has to pay the keren. He has to pay the principal over here of what he ate up. Okay? In this case, though, he does not pay kefil for this because what was his taina? His taina was that it got lost. His taina wasn't that it got stolen. If his taina was that it got stolen, then he would pay kefil. We'll see soon. The Gemara will say. But if he taina is that it got lost, then he doesn't pay kefil. Okay. So he pays the keren. Then the Braisa goes on another case. If after he swore falsely about this, he himself admits this, then Meshalim, Keren, Chaimish, V'asham. So then he swore falsely, he admits it, you pay the Keren, Chaimish, and Asham for this. So what do you see over here? This person swore falsely about this pekatin that he had in his possession, and it says clearly over here that he has to pay it. Not like what Rav said, that once you swear falsely and then Edom come, you don't have to pay. The Gemara's question is specifically from the Reisha, because we'll see soon, the Gemara is actually going to discuss this, but the halacha of Rav, the Gemara is eventually going to say, applies only regarding a case where Edom came and contradicted the shvur that you made, this false shvur that you made, not if you admitted it yourself. The Gemara will soon discuss that. So Rav Nachman answers this. In this case, when it says that after Edom came, he does have to pay. He didn't swear inside a bezdin; he swore outside bezdin. In that pasuk that Rav quoted, where it says that after you swear you don't pay, it says Shvus Hashem Tir Ben Shneim. Over there it says Adolakim Yovid Vashneim. He swore in bezdin. If he swore outside a bezdin and then he was found to have sworn falsely by Edom, then Rav agrees that he'll have to pay. And that's what this Braisa here is talking about. Amalei, so he asked on him, how could you say that this Bryce is talking about out of Bezdin? Afterwards, what does it say here? He says, similar case. He asks him, where's my pekadon? Amalei, and he answers him, Nignav. Here he says, it got stolen. So he says, Mashpiyacha, and he swear for me that it got stolen. Amen. He accepts the shvu, he says Amen. And then Edom come and say that it got stolen. So here, because he denied this, he said that it got stolen. So then, when it turns out Edom come and say that he has it, he ate it, so then he has to pay for this, not just keren, he has to pay kefil as well. If he admits himself, again, the halach is when you admit yourself after you swore falsely, mishalim keren v'chaimish v'asham. In such a case, there's a keren, chaimish, and asham. Now the question is, how can you say that this case here is talking about out of bezdin? V'sal gedait of chutz lebezdin. If this is all out of bezdin, mi ikka kefil. When a person admits, or when a person swears falsely, that is outside bezdin, is there a payment of kefil? The halacha of paying kefil only applies when it's in bezdin. The pasuk that I mentioned before, ad l'kim yavid v'ashneim, that's where it says the payment of kefil as well, and it's only if you swore falsely in bezdin. Something that we learned already about earlier in Perik Merubah. So you can't say that this brayso is speaking about outside of bezdin. Okay, so the Gemara says, Amalei, so Rav Nachman answered, Yechilne l'shenuyalach. Really, if you want, I can answer you. Reisha, chutz lebezdin. In the Reisha, it's speaking about that he swore outside bezdin, and that answers the question on Rav. And the Seifa bebezdin. And the Seifa of this brayso is speaking about that it was in bezdin, and therefore he pays kefil. It's two different cases. However, says the Gemara, Mihu, Shnuye dechike loy meshanin alach. I don't want to give you this kind of an answer, which is a squeeze, it's a dechik, that the Reisha and the Seifa are two different cases. So therefore, rather he says, I'll tell you a different answer. Idi v'idi bebezdin. The Reisha and the Seifa are both talking about that it's in bezdin. V'loy kashya, and still there's not a contradiction, because even in bezdin, it depends how this person swore. Kan bekofatz. In the Reisha is talking about this person jumped ahead and swore even before the bezdin obligated him or administered the shvuah to him. He jumped even before the bezdin asked him to, and he swore about this. That's the Reisha. So therefore, in such a case, Rav would agree that if later he's found to swear falsely, he has to pay. Because it's not the bezdin that made him swear, he swore on his own. Then he would have to pay. And then Khan, in the Sefer, what is it talking about? B'shaloi kofatz. When the person is in the bezdin, and the bezdin made him swear. He didn't jump on his own to swear. And in such a case, because bezdin made him swear, he even pays kefil. The halacha of kefil is only when the bezdin makes you swear. That's the difference between the Reisha and the Sefer. So this could still fit with Rav's opinion. Okay. This is what Rav Nachman is saying to explain how it's not a contradiction to Rav. Now, Amalei Rami Bava Kama le Rav Nachman. Rami Bava Kama says to Rav Nachman, Mechti let's see. The Rav lo yisvirulach. I know that you don't even agree b'chlal to this chiddush of Rav, that once a person swears falsely, in the Bezdin, that then, even if Adam came, he won't have to pay. I know that you don't hold of this. So therefore, mashkuni nafsha chadarav lamalach. Why are you giving your soul as a collateral? Meaning, why are you working so hard to defend Rav's opinion? If you anyways disagree with this. Amalei, so Rav Nachman answers, true, I don't agree to this, but lefrushe l'darav. But I still want to explain how Rav's opinion would fit with this brayse here. The Rav hachi mitaretz lemasnisin, and this is how Rav is going to answer this Mishnah here. Okay, but now the Gemara explains why, if Rav Nachman disagrees with Rav, but v'harav kra ka'amar. Rav learns it out from the pasuk that we quoted before, v'lokach bala v'lo yishalem. That the pasuk there says that once the owner takes and accepts from you a shvuah, then you don't pay. So how would Rav Nachman learn that pasuk? Amri, they answered, Kra, that pasuk is teaching something totally different. According to Rav Nachman, that pasuk is teaching for any case in Torah where you have to swear, Nishba'in v'loy mishalmen. The Torah obligates you to swear only to defend yourself that someone will not be able to take money out of your possession. But you never swear in Torah, al pi Torah, that shvuah mina Torah, that is, you never swear to then take money out of someone else's possession. That's what this pasuk is coming to say. V'lokach balav v'lo yishalem. That if you take a shvuah only for the purpose that he shouldn't pay. That's hudasa. That's what this pasuk is coming to say. Yeah, which means the Gemara spells out v'lokach balav v'lo yishalem mi she'olav l'shalem. The one that ended in Torah, he's the one that the Bezdin is trying to make him pay. Hu nishpa. He's the one that swears to stop him from paying. So it's a different drasha. So therefore, we have no source for what Rav said. The Gemara goes back now. The Gemara brings another shaila on what Rav said. Masav Rav Amnuna. Rav Amnuna asked, it says in the Mishnah, Hamash Hishbiya Olav Chamisha Pamim. If a person swore 5 different times regarding something that he stole from someone, and he denied it, and 5 times he swore falsely. Bein b'fnei bezdin, whether this happened all 5 times in front of a bezdin, bein shaloi b'fnei bezdin, whether not in front of a bezdin, v'kafar olav, and he denied it. Chayev akol achas v'achas. He's going to be chayev for each one of these times that he swore falsely and he denied it. That's what the Bava Kama here says. Rav Shimon explains why is this matam. Why is he chayev every time? Because this person over here, each time that he swore falsely, if he comes and admits it, then he'll be chayiv to pay. So if he's chayiv to pay, and then he swears falsely again, and he's chayiv to pay, and he swears falsely again. So every time that he swears falsely, he's actually denying money that he would be chayiv to pay otherwise. Okay, this is what it says here in this, it's a Mishnah or a Braisa here later. Okay, so so now, what's the question over here? What do you see over here? After this person swears falsely, what do we say? If he would admit it, he would be chayiv to pay. And therefore, if he swears falsely again, not just stam, practically for this case, this is not talking about in the very same bezdin. The person didn't come and swear falsely and admit it and come back and swear falsely again and admit it in the same bezdin. The same bezdin is not going to allow the same person to swear falsely again and again. He is one bezdin, then this happens again in another bezdin, and a third bezdin, and 5 different bezdins. Right? So,
Same case?
Yeah, it's the same case, but it's not all happening in the same bezdin. Okay, but the point over here is we see that even after he swears falsely, he would be chayiv to pay. Now, the Gemara first clarifies the answers that we tried to give before to defend Rav don't apply here. Over here, you can't say that the case is the person swore on his own without the bezdin because hishpiya olav katani. The lashon over there is befedish. It said in that Mishnah that the bezdin is the one that made him swear. And also, chutz lebezdin le'matzah samris. You can't say that it's happened only outside of the bezdin, and then Rav would agree, as we said before, that he pays afterwards, because b'fnei bezdin katani. The Mishnah there clearly spells out whether it's in front of bezdin, whether it's not in front of bezdin. So you see here clearly a person swears in bezdin, and the bezdin is the one that made him swear. And if he would come and be maida afterwards, then he would have to pay. So the Gemara says, "Hu ma'asav la v'hu mefarik la." So Rav Hamnuna asked this question, and he himself gave the answer and explained, "Litzdadin katani." You have to take the words of what the Mishnah says, whether it was inside Bezdin, whether it was outside Bezdin, and these are 2 different cases that have to be explained differently. And this is how you have to understand it. Hishbiya olav chutz lebezdin. If he swore about this outside of the Bezdin, that's one case. Could have happened outside of the Bezdin. Or ube Bezdin, or it could have happened inside of the Bezdin, but then kafatz. If it happened inside of the Bezdin, it's only if he swore on his own. He jumped to swear and Bezdin didn't make him swear. And like we already said before, in those cases, Rav agrees that if he's found then liable, that he does pay. That was the way Rav Amnuna explained what Rav said. Rav asks on this. Now the point that comes out of here like this. I mentioned before that the halacha that Rav said, when a person swears falsely and then he's found that he has it, and that he doesn't have to pay, it's not necessarily in every single case. Over here, from what Rav Hamnuna said, and the way he asks this question from this Bryce, and the way he answers it, you see that Rav Hamnuna held that this applies in every case, including here in a case where the person admits himself. That's what it seems like. He admits it himself, and still, according to Rav, you don't have to pay. And so Rav, though, here will prove, and here we'll see, Rav is going to come and explain that this whole halacha that Rav said, that after you swore falsely, you don't pay anymore afterwards, it's limited to a specific case. In most cases, Rav would agree that that's not true. And that's what Rav is going to come to prove here now, and this is what he's asking out of Amnuna. Mosiv Rav, so Rav asks, Balabayis, Shatan, Tainas Ganav. Balabayis, this Balabayis here that it actually says in this Mishnah is referring to the Shomer. The Shomer, he's a Shomer Chinam, he's keeping something for someone, and he comes and claims that it got stolen from him. Regarding a Pekadon that he had in his possession. V'nishba v'hoide, and then he swears falsely, and he admits to this later. Ubao Edim, and Edim came also. Now, if he admitted before the Edim came, so then Shalom Kerem v'chaimish v'asham, because he admitted, the halacha always is when you admit yourself to this geneva, so you pay Kerem chaimish and asham, like we had before. Now, if first Edim came, and only he admitted only after that, then Mishalem Tashlumi Kefil v'asham. Then you pay Kefil and an asham, but there's not the chaimish. Okay, that's the halacha that it says here in this Mishnah. Now the question is, v'hacha chutz lebezn v'kofatz le'matzas amris. Over here, this is not a Mishnah that's talking about like the answers that we tried to give before, outside Bezdin, or he jumped to swear on his own, because Kefil Katani. It says, it mentions there in that Mishnah the case of Kefil. Kefil, you're only chayiv in Bezdin when Bezdin makes you swear. So we know that it's all in Bezdin. And still it says, when the person admits, he's chayiv to pay. Well, according to Rav, the way Rav Hamnuna understood Rav understood Rav in a very broad sense, that any time a person swears falsely, the owner accepted a shvuah, you won't have to pay, even if the person himself admitted regarding a gneva, doesn't matter, you don't have to pay. How could that be? But over here, this is the classic case over here regarding a pekadon. Here we're talking about the case of a pekadon. Person swore falsely that it got stolen, and he's made it, and he does pay. So therefore here, Rav comes and explains what Rav said is only in a specific case. Rav said, explained as follows. Kol hoide, anytime a person admits to swearing falsely, if he had a pekadon, and now he swore falsely, it doesn't matter if he swore falsely saying that it got lost from him, or it got stolen from him. Regarding these cases, Rav never said that you wouldn't be chayiv to pay after you admit. Because the haksiv is vada. This is where the pasuk clearly says, after the person confesses, the bayishlumi, keren, v'chaimish, that's what the pasuk says, this whole halacha, that after you confess, you have to pay the keren, and then the chaimish, and a carbon asham as well. Now, similar, Tayin is Ganev, when a person claimed he was holding up a pekadon, and he claimed that it got stolen from him, Ubo Edim, and Edim came along and said that he swore falsely, Nami lo yom Rav. In such a case, Rav would also not say that this person is pater, because the Haksiv Tashlumi Kefil. It's regarding this case that the Torah says, just like if you steal something, similar, if you have a pekadon and you claim that it got stolen, you're like a ganev. In such a case, you have to pay kefil. In this case, Rav also didn't say his chiddush that after you gave a shvuah to the owner, so to speak, that you don't have to pay. That's not what Rav was talking about. So therefore, Rav was talking about one specific case. Ki ka'ama Rav, the Bach adds in here. When did Rav say this? Kagoin shatayin tainas ovad. You had a pekadon in your possession, and your claim was that it got stolen. And v'nishba, and you swore falsely about this, and v'loy oide, you never admitted it. And then ubo Edim, and then Edim came and found that you have it. Then it's in such a case that Rav said that once the owner accepted a shvuah for you for this, that it got lost, and now, even if Edim came, you're not going to have to pay. That's the only case that Rav, this is where Rav said is chiddush, but not the other cases. So now the Gemara says, now so basically, Rav is arguing on what Rav Hamnuna said. Rav Hamnuna, the way the Gemara understood before, Rav Hamnuna understood that what Rav said applies even to a case where the person's maida himself. Rav says, no, when you maida, obviously then you have to pay. Because they have clear psukim for that. So now also Rav Gamda went, V'amra l'shmaita kamed Rav Ashi, he repeated over this halacha that Rav said in front of Rav Ashi, that Rav argued with the understanding of what Rav meant. Rav Hamnuna understood it broadly. Rav understood it very, very limited. Amalei, so Rav Gamda said, how could Rava argue with understanding what Rav said. Hashte Omar Rav Amnuna, Talmidei de Rav. Rav Amnuna, he was the student of Rav. V'yada, and he knew the Omar Rav, that Rav, when he said that you would be potter after you swore, that's even hoide. That's even when the person admits himself, you'll still be potter. And therefore, as it's seen before, the Kamasiv hoide. He asked from a Mishnah that we quoted before, when a person swore 5 times, he was asking from a case where the person was made himself. And you're coming and repeating me in the name of Rav, that Rav, in a case where the person was made himself, that Rav's halacha does not apply. Who should we trust more? Rav Amnuna or Rav? Rav Amnuna was the student of Rav. He knows what Rav said. Again, this goes together. And you're telling me that in a case where the person was made, I should listen to Rav, that Rav did not say it in this case? So Ravacha Saba spoke up and he tells Ravashi that really Rav Amnuna agrees to Rava. Rava before brought very clear psukim. It has to be that Rav is maida in all these cases when the person is maida and so on, because you have clear psukim that the person will be chayiv to pay. We brought before the question of Rav Amnuna, and it seemed like Rav Amnuna was asking from a case where the person was maida himself. So the Gemara says, no, we misunderstood what Rav Amnuna was asking. Rav Amnuna hachikashile. The question of Rav Amnuna was as follows. Again, what was that case he was asking from? He was asking from a case where a person swore 5 times falsely. So the Mishnah there said that every time he's going to have to pay separately for each time. The way the Gemara understood it until now is, the reason he has to pay each time is because each time he's actually denying something that he would be chayiv to pay. And how would he become chayiv to pay? Because if he would have been Maida himself, he would have been chayiv to pay. And it's from that he was asking on Rav. So the Gemara thought that means that Rav Amnuna holds that according to Rav, even when you're Maida, you would be potter to pay. But now the Gemara says, no, Rav Amnuna was not asking because if he would be Maida, you would be chayiv. That's irrelevant. His Eidah is not the point here. The point is that if Adam would come, he would be chayiv. And that was the question on Rav. And the Gemara explains as follows. What Rav Amnuna's question was, if you're going to say Nishba, when this person swore falsely 5 times, Ki also Adam Mechayev, and if for each time that he swore falsely, Adam would come and prove that he swore falsely, he would be chayev now to pay. So Am Talachim Mechavin Karben Ashvuah. So therefore, for each next shvuah that he makes, he's chayiv to pay and chayiv to bring a carbon. Why? Since this is a case that the person could have been maida, and he could have been maida, and this is regarding money that he would be chayiv for. Why would he be chayiv for this? Because if Adam came, he would be chayiv for this. But if you're going to say like Rav said, after a person swears falsely, then Adam come and say that he swore falsely, so then Potter, he would be Potter. Miya Kimidi, is there a case, could you say, that if Adam would come and say Adus against this person, he would anyways be Potter, and if he now swears falsely about this, he would be chayiv for it, and he would be chayiv to bring a carbon for this? And you would say, you know why you should be chayiv? If he would have admitted it himself, he would have been chayiv. But hashtamiyah is salayidi. But right now, though, he himself was not maida. He swore falsely once, a second time, a third time. He swore falsely 5 times. He was never maida anything. So each one of these times that he swore falsely, he wasn't swearing falsely about any money. Adarabah, he was just swearing falsely again and again. The only way to explain why he has to pay separately for each time that he swore falsely is if you're going to say that if Adam come, then he would be chayiv. And then we could consider each time that he swore falsely is swearing falsely about something that he would have been chayiv if Adam came. That was the question of Rav Hamnuna. So the point over here, the Gemara is concluding is, this whole halacha that Rav said, that once you swear falsely and the owner accepted that shvuah from you, you'll be potter to pay. Even Rav Hamnuna agrees to Rava that that's only said in a specific case. In the case of where a person swore falsely regarding a claim that he made that this pekadon was lost. But not in a case where he admitted himself. Not in a case where he swore falsely about that it got stolen. In those cases, there are clear psukim that you do have to pay. Gemara now starts a new inyan. Omer Rav Chia bar Abba, Omer Rav Yechanan. Rav Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rav Yechanan. We learned this already earlier in the Masechta as well. Hatoyen tainas ganav b'pekadon. Person that claimed regarding a pekadon that he has in his possession that it got stolen, mishalem tashlumi kefil. If it's now discovered that he has it, so he pays kefil like a ganav himself. And not only that, tovach machar, if you went and slaughtered it or sold it, mishalem tashlumi Bava Kama. So the halacha of paying 4 or 5 times as much, which relates usually to a ganav, applies in this case as well when he had a pekadon and he claimed that it got stolen. And the Gemara explains why do we compare this? Because we compare this to a ganav, just like we see the ganav mishalem tashlumi kefil. By a ganav, he pays kefil. And the toyin tainas ganav mishalem tashlumi kefil. And it says clearly in the psukim, we learned this before on Perik Merubet, the Gemara learned out from the psukim, that by a person that had a pekadon and he claimed that it got stolen, he also pays kefil. So therefore, if they both pay kefil, we compare it to ma ganav shemishalem tashlumi kefil, just like by a ganav that pays kefil. Bava Kama, if he slaughtered it or sold it, he pays 4 or 5 times. Av tainas ganav b'pikadon, the same thing also by the person that claimed that it got stolen for pikadon. Keshu mishalem tashlumi kefil, since he has to since he has to pay kefil. So too, if he slaughters it or sells it, he's going to have to pay 4 or 5 times as much. So even though it doesn't ever say clearly in the Torah regarding this case that a tovach or machar pays dalad v'hei, but we compare it to the ganav. But the Gemara says, not necessarily could you compare this case to the ganav. Why? Ma'al ganav, by the ganav, when he pays dalad v'hei, shekei mishalem tashlumi kefil shaloi b'shvua. He pays the kefil even without a shvua. So we see that the Torah is more stringent about this. A ganav just has to pay right away kefil. Is ganav. On the other hand, the person that claims that a pekadon got stolen from him, he only has to pay kefil, not if he denies this, but also if he swore falsely about this. So there's a certain leniency here. So it's not the same as a ganav. How could you compare to a ganav regarding learning out from a ganav that you pay dalad v'hei? So Amri, they answer to explain what Rabbi Yechanan was saying, Hekei shehi. We compare, in the pasuk you see that the Torah puts the ganav and the person that has a pekadon and claims that it got stolen from him, the pasuk puts them together in the same pasuk. And ve'em yishivan ala hekish. And therefore we don't refute a hekish with these kind of a logical reasoning, because if the Torah compares them, then we know that they're the same. Rashi brings over here, we had this psukim, it was earlier in Perik Merubah, that is. It says in the pasuk, im yimotzi aganav. Then it says, im lo yimotzi aganav. The Gemara there darshan, and according to one opinion, that one pasuk is talking about the ganav, and the other one is talking about the person that claims that it got stolen. So the pasuk puts both together. So it's a hekish. Hekish is a juxtaposition. That's the English word for it. Okay, when you have two psukim that are near each other and we compare them. So the Gemara now asks, this is not everybody agrees to this, we learned this before. This is true if both of these psukim that I just mentioned, that one is talking about the ganav, and one is talking about the one that claims that it got stolen. So then, yeah, we compare them. Shap, that's a good answer. But there's another opinion that says, these two psukim that say near each other, both of them are talking about the person that has a pekadon and is claiming that it got stolen from him. We don't have in this pasuk the din of a ganav at all. So from where do you see to compare a person that claims toyin tainas ganav to a ganav that he pays dalad v'hei? So Amri, they answered, Ganev, Haganev. Here when it says, Yimotzi Haganev, that hey is extra, that hey is coming to say that this person that claims that it got stolen is like the Ganev, even regarding this halacha of Dalad V'hei. That was the Chiddush of Rabbi Yechanan. On this the Gemara asks, Eisvei Rab Chiya bar Abba Rabbi Yechanan. So Rab Chiya bar Abba asks Rabbi Yechanan, there's a brayso that says, Heichon Shoiri, we quoted this before, right? Heichon Shoiri, where is my ox? So he answers, Nignav, got stolen. Mashbiyachani. So he says, so swear to me that it got stolen. And he says, which means he accepts, he makes a shvua about it. And then what happens? Eidim come along and testify about this person here that swore falsely because he himself ate up this, he ate this animal for himself. So mishalim tashlum kefil. This person pays kefil. That's what it says there in this Mishnah. So now it says the Gemara, wait a minute, what happened over here? This person ate up this pekadon. Well, if he ate it, doesn't mean he shechted it. If Edom are testifying that he ate it, you can't eat the meat unless you slaughtered it first. So that means that after he claimed that it got stolen and he denied it, now he slaughtered it. And Ketani, it says in that Mishnah, Mishal Tashlumi Kefil, that he only pays Kefil. Tashlumi Kefil in Tashlumi Dalad V'hei Loi. He pays Kefil, but he doesn't pay 4 or 5 times as much because he slaughtered it. According to Rabbi Yechanan, after you slaughtered it, you should be chayiv to pay. So here, the Gemara is going to go through a bunch of different answers that you can answer to this, to explain why a person would only pay kefil and not pay for the slaughtering, even though he slaughtered it, and the halach of Daled Vehei should and does apply here. Says the Gemara, there's no question from here. What is the case over here? This person never shechted it. He did one aveda, he's stealing it, and now he ate it as an avela. He never shechted it b'chlal. The halach of paying Daled Vehei is only if there's a proper shchita, kosher shchita. That was the answer that was given to this. Now the Gemara is going to say, huh?
He killed it. You should pay for the whole thing.
But this here we learned before in Perik Merubah, the halacha of paying Daled Vehei is only when you slaughter it in a kosher oifen. If you slaughter that, your proper shchita, that's where the Torah says you pay Daled Vehei. Otherwise, you don't pay. Now here, as I said, the Gemara is going to go through different options of what it could be that the person did that he would not be chayav Daled Vehei. Says the Gemara, why can't he answer another answer? That he ate it, it was a kosher shchita, but it was a treifa. We learned before in Perik Merubah that if this is a shchita which is not roy to eat, even though the actual shchita itself was kosher, but if the animal is treifa, then you don't pay Daled Vehei either. This is actually Rab Shimon's opinion. So according to him, you can answer that it was a treifa here. Says the Gemara, Rab Meir. We're following here Rab Meir's opinion. The Amar Rab Meir said, Shchita she'einu re'uya, shma shchita. As long as the shchita itself was kosher, but even if the animal itself is not roy to eat because it was found to be a treifa, that's still a shchita that you would be chayav to pay Daled Vehei for this. So that's why we didn't give that answer. The Gemara asks a different question, or said the Gemara actually is offering a different option to answer this question. Why over here you don't pay Daled Vehei? V'l'shanile, why couldn't he answer? Ben pekua, an animal which is a ben pekua. What's a ben pekua? An animal that was found in the mother's womb after the shchita. This animal, according to Rab Shimon as well, he holds that later on, this animal you can eat without any shchita. Even much later on, the animal's 5 years old, you can take it and eat this animal without any shchita because it was in the mother's womb when the mother was shechted. So the Gemara could have said that that's the case over here. There was no shchita done here because you can eat it without shchita. Says the Gemara Rab Meir. No, again, we're following Rab Meir's opinion. He argues on this point as well. The Amar Rab Meir holds ben pekua ton shchita. An animal that was in the mother's womb at the time of shchita does need its own shchita. So that's not an answer. The Gemara asks a different question. But v'leshani le, you could have answered over here regarding this case. Why you don't pay Daled Vehei? You only pay kefil. Kagay sha'amad bedin. The case here is that there was already a din taita here, and this person denied this shard that he has in his possession. And Bezdin already paskined. V'omru loy, they found that he was lying about this, and the Bezdin already told him, say, 10 loy, go out and pay what you denied. And in such a case, if after already Bezdin paskined this, he went out and slaughtered it, he's not going to be chayiv to pay for this. Why? The Homar Rava said, say 10 loy, once the person was already told by the Bezdin, the psak din, that he has to pay it, and after that, Tovach u'machar, he went and slaughtered or sold this animal, potter. He's going to be potter for this. Why? My time, what's the difference? Kivin the paskel milsei. Once Bezdin paskins this, v'tovach u'machar, and he still went and slaughtered it, now his status changes. He's not a ganav anymore. Have a gazlan. He becomes a gazlan. This whole halach of paying Daled Vehei is only regarding a ganav that comes in a way not openly by force. Over here, once Bezdin already paskin and you have to pay, and you're still keeping it for yourself, you have a status of a gazlan. The gazlan loy mishal t'shlumi Bava Kama. By a gazlan, you don't pay 4 or 5 times as much. Okay, so now here this is just a side point. The Gemara just clarifies this halacha that Rava said. If the Bezdin said chayiv atalitin loy, the Bezdin paskin that he's obligated to pay, but the Bezdin didn't yet tell him to say go out and pay, tovach u'machar, and then he slaughtered or sells it, chayiv. He's still going to be chayiv. My time, why? Kol kama d'loi psika le milsa. As long as Bezdin didn't mamish go and say 10 loy, go and give it, akati ganav. He still has the status of a ganav. Anyways, the Gemara's question over here is, here you have another example of an answer that we could have given of why you don't pay Daled Vehei. Amri, so the Gemara says, you're right, according to your reasoning, I'll give you another answer that we could have said, why you don't pay Daled Vehei. Lishani lei, it could have answered, B'shutiv shetovach, shaloi midas chavera. We had earlier in Perik Merubah, when you have partners in crime that stole together, and then one of the partners went and slaughtered it without the knowledge of his partner. So then you don't pay Daled Vehei, because Allah paying Daled Vehei is only when you pay full Daled Vehei, not half a Daled Vehei. So maybe this Mishnah we quoted before would be talking about such a case. The point over here is the Gemara concludes and says that you have many answers that you can give. Ella chada mitrei utlasanakat. True, we have all these answers you could have given, but we gave one answer. So this is an answer for not to be a question of Rabbi Yechanan. Okay.